So today we're going to talk about how to maintenance your refrigerator. The reason that this is necessary is because it lengthens the life of your refrigerator. When you get dust underneath your refrigerator and it starts to wrap around the coils and the fan and the equipment in the back, it just makes it hotter in that environment and it starts to ruin the equipment that's on the inside. So you can lengthen the time that your refrigerator operates if you do this maintenance on it. I usually do it about once a year. The buildup is enough that it makes it worth the effort over about a year. You could probably go 2 years. It depends on what you find back there when you go back and clean it. So this is a pretty can be a pretty in-depth process. It probably takes close to an hour to do the whole thing. The tools that you're going to need is probably a ratchet set. It depends on your refrigerator, a drill, and some bits, and a vacuum for sure. The vacuum is going to be your main tool. So here we go. All right, so my refrigerator has these little feet that screw down on it to set it in place so that it doesn't move. My old refrigerator didn't have those. I was able to just pull it in and out on the casters. But this one has feet, so I've got a 1/4 inch hex bit and my ratchet tool, and this little foot is set on the ground holding it in place, so I've got to lift that foot up so that the refrigerator sets down on these casters and I can roll it out. So I got to pull that out a little bit so I can access it. And I'm just gonna screw it until it comes all the way off the ground. That's it, and I'm gonna vacuum around it too, just to get dust out of my house. So after we've got those feet retracted up, the refrigerator should pull out really easily. If you don't have the feet, it should just pull out right out really easily. Even though this fridge weighs a couple thousand pounds loaded with food, it should still pull out pretty easily. Make sure you pull it straight out. You don't want to twist it sideways at all. I've heard that it can damage your floor. I don't know exactly how that happens if you've got good wheels on there, but apparently it can happen. So just grab it by both sides and just pull straight out. Pull it out as far as you can if you got a counter or whatever in the way, just so you can have easy access to get behind it. All right, so once you get the refrigerator pulled out, we're gonna, first thing we're gonna do is vacuum behind it. And so I've just got my vacuum with a pole attachment so that I can reach back there. It's gonna be dusty back there. You may not care that there's dust underneath your refrigerator because nobody sees it, but the dust that's underneath the refrigerator gets sucked up into the refrigerator on the bottom because it's open and there's coils underneath there. And those coils function best when they're clean. So that's the first thing we're gonna do is to vacuum back there. And the reason it's first thing is because now we're gonna be climbing back there, and you know, you don't wanna be stepping in all the dust and stuff like that, especially when you're gonna vacuum it eventually. You might as well do it first. So we're just gonna vacuum the whole floor underneath the fridge behind there. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do after we vacuum is just come back here and unplug the refrigerator. And the reason we do that is because we're going to be vacuuming equipment, including the fan that's in there, and you don't want that stuff running while you're working on it, so we unplug it. And also, you're going to be back behind there. You don't want to accidentally step on the cord and rip it out of the refrigerator or something like that. So just unplug it. One of the things you're going to want to do once you get the fridge moved is turn on and off the water valve that's back here. If you have ice and water to your fridge, which many do these days, you want to turn on and off this water valve because it's an emergency water valve in case there's a leak. And if you don't turn it on and off, it will freeze over time, and then it doesn't work for turning it off in an emergency. I've got another video on my channel about turning all the valves in your house and why to do that. And so here's where it is down here. Got the water valve down here, and so we're just going to turn it all the way off and all the way back on. If it doesn't move when you try to move it, then it's already frozen, and you're going to have a plumber come in and replace that for you. Don't force it like with pliers, because you can break it and you'll be leaking water all over the place, and that's the emergency shut off, so you won't be able to shut it off. So once we get back here, we're going to bring our drill, and you want to probably use a bit that's a hex bit like this. If you don't have a drill, you could use a handheld ratchet set with hex bits on it, but the drill works way better, way faster. Most of these on the back of here are going to be 1/4 inch. Yours might be different, but that's a good place to start. So there's on mine, there's all these little screws down here that hold this panel in to be able to access the equipment. And so we got to take all those screws out so that we can take this panel off and be able to vacuum back there. And so we're just gonna take all these screws out. That's it. We're gonna go all the way around. Mine's got like 8 of them that I'm gonna take off. So once you get this panel off, you're just gonna use your vacuum. I'm not gonna turn it on just so that you can hear me talk while I do this, but you just wanna vacuum around back in here. All this equipment as much as you can. You gotta be really careful because there's delicate parts and stuff in here, but you just wanna vacuum dust as much as you can. I've already vacuumed in here, so it's pretty clean, but it was fairly dirty. And I haven't done it in maybe 1.5 years. So just vacuum as much dust as you can out of this area without damaging anything. You don't want to try to get the last bit of dust at the cost of maybe bending one of these delicate parts back here. So once we've vacuumed in there as well as we can, you might even want to wipe in there with like a microfiber cloth. Some parts that you can't reach with the vacuum, like the fan blades. You may not be able to get on both sides of the fan blade because of the way that it's positioned in there with a vacuum head. So you can just reach in there very delicately and wipe it with a microfiber cloth. But make sure you don't bend that blade. Again, things are delicate. You don't want to damage anything back there just to get a little bit of dust. So then we're going to put this panel back on. So all we do is take these screws and put them back into all the places that we took them out. Make sure to set your drill. Make sure to set your drill on a low torque because you don't want to over tighten these. They're just holding in a light panel and there's tons of them, so you don't need these like super cranked down tight. So put it on a low torque. And just do that all the way around. All right, so now we're just gonna push the fridge back. It should be pretty easy on the wheels. You may need to be careful while you're pushing it back. If there's a water line back there, you may want to just take a check before you push it into the final position to see if you've kinked the hose too much, and it might cut off the water supply. Or maybe better than checking is just put it back into place, get some water right away, and see if the water flows fine. If it does, then you're all good. If it doesn't, pull it back out. You may have to have a partner to kind of hold that hose in a position that's good for it while you're pushing the fridge back in place. That's it, we're done, unless you've got feet on your refrigerator that need to be reset to level it like mine does. Not all refrigerators have that, but if you do, you got to screw the feet back down into place. So a couple things that I didn't mention in the beginning when I was talking about tools. I didn't show you all my tools, so I didn't think about the specifics of it, but I also used a light. That wasn't just for the video. That's because when you're behind the fridge, it's pretty dark, so I like to have a nice powerful light so I can see. You'd be amazed how even dust can hide from you when you don't have a light. And then another tool you might want to use is some kind of a knee pads or just a folded up towel to cushion your knees a little bit while you're down on your knees. So hopefully this video was helpful to you. If it was, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell so you get notified of other videos as I keep producing these, and take care.